to my Five Senses Experience podcast, the place where we explore our five senses, what we see, hear, smell, touch, and what we taste. But what if not all the five senses are perfectly functioning? How does your perception change if you cannot rely on all of them equally? Bradford and Bryan were both diagnosed with an eye disease that causes blindness over time. They are the founders of two blind brothers. And in today's episode, we chat about what it's like if you're losing your sense of vision and how they experience without being able to see. I'm super excited for you to hear and learn about how this motivates them to be in business with a mission to cure blindness, and what they mean by saying that their number one learning is the importance of learning to trust. All right, but now I do not want to keep you waiting any longer. I'm Kat. Thank you so much and enjoy listening and being inspired by the two blind brothers, Bradford and Bryan. Brad and Bryan, thank you so much for being here today and taking your time to share with us your absolutely inspirational journey.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
How are both of you during this crazy time? How are you doing?
Well, we are doing the best we can. You know, Bryan and I normally live, this is Brad, Bryan and I normally live in New York City, but about 2 months ago when it started to get pretty crazy out there, we left and came down to near the town where we grew up. Mm-hmm. And so we're in Virginia right now, and it's green trees, fresh air, good family values, and a lot of sitting inside.
Good. So everyone's healthy. That's great to hear.
Yeah, we're incredibly grateful for.
Absolutely. I guess that's the most important time, or the most important thing these days. So I gave a little trigger already in the intro, and I'm really curious, when and how did you form the business Two Blind Brothers? What's your mission and how is it developing? Maybe just take us a bit on that journey.
So Bryan and I have a rare eye condition called Stargardt's disease. It's essentially a juvenile form of macular degeneration where you lose your center vision over time. And you know, we were both diagnosed at a young age, around 7 years old. They knew something was wrong. When I failed the kindergarten eye chart, I'm a few years older than Bryan. And it was a very scary moment for our parents, but they gave us the best gift ever, which was to kind of put this in context of all of life's challenges, and that this was something that was going to be overcome and something that was going to give us something to adapt to learn things like assertiveness and resourcefulness and independence. In spite of a challenge. And so we were lucky. We had great school. We had great education. We were lucky when we graduated to have jobs. We both ended up in New York City. And we had this very fortuitous day where we are out shopping. And we end up in a Bloomingdale's of all places. And if you are blind or visually impaired, sometimes shopping can be a giant pain. First of all, Bryan and I lose each other when we walk into the store, but also when you're looking at the tags or the clothing, you can't see a lot of the information, the sizing, the color, the prices, etc. So you sort of start by running your hand over something you love and then doing all the work to figure out if you want to buy it. And on this day, we coincidentally walked out with the exact same shirt. It was this super soft shirt. And we played rock, paper, scissors to see who had to return it. I won. Bryan had to give it back. But we had this light bulb moment. We thought, what if there was something to this? We'd always been close to the research that was going on in this space, to the other people in this community. And we were looking for a way to participate even more. And we thought, what if this was our thing? What if this could be our passion project? What if this could be our voice in the community by making the best, most comfortable, amazing shirt that we possibly could based on that sense of touch, and also giving 100% of the profits back to help bring hope in the same way that our parents gave us hope when we were young, and in the same way organizations like the Foundation Fighting Blindness, which has been fighting for a lot of these cures has been giving hope to us along the way. And that's when we formed the brand Two Blind Brothers.
Amazing. I love how you take your need and form it into an actual opportunity and see the great potential in that one, not just for yourself, but also for helping others.
We appreciate that, but it was kind of funny at the outset. We didn't have any of those, super high-minded aspirations. We wanted to help in every way that we could, but this project really did start as a passion project for Brad and I, just to spend time together. And as Brad said, make some shirts, raise some awareness, and try just to donate some money early on.
Mm-hmm. So talking about the products and the soft t-shirts, which products do you have in stock right now? Which ones do you offer?
Well,
go ahead, Brian.
Okay. We have arguably, and I might be a tiny bit biased, I'm not sure about that, but the single greatest fabric and the greatest clothing on the planet, but again, tiny bias here. Mm-hmm. We make everything that you could possibly imagine. When you think of when you want to be soft, when you want to be comfortable, and you want to feel great about yourself, we try to make the clothing that represents that. And we started with a 3-button Henley, and we've expanded quite a bit to hoodies and polos and crew necks and V-necks and lounge shorts and joggers and amazing pairs of socks and beanies and really kind of everything under the sun, with the absolute goal and intention to make sure that everything we make is extraordinarily high quality. And when you touch it, when you feel it, you really know the difference and can feel the difference in our fabrics.
Amazing. So it all started from a t-shirt, as I understand, and then growing the full range. And what I also saw on your website, that you also offer bracelets and necklaces with like the Love is Blind braid, if I'm not mistaken, for like engravings.
Yes. So we have our whole Love is Blind collection, which is just phenomenal, where it has the word love on some beautiful, beautiful pieces of jewelry. And we work with an amazing designer for that. And actually, on that same spirit of Braille, on all of our Two Blind Brothers designs, on the bottom right hem, we have the color of the shirt in embroidered Braille. So if you are blind or you're visually impaired, you can actually feel your way through your closet, find your Two Blind Brothers shirt because it's the most comfortable one in there. And then you'll actually know what color it is by the bottom right hem. We love the fact that it can be a tool for accessibility, but we also just think that it's aesthetically beautiful.
Right.
And actually, just to add one more thing that, with that designer, for example, who helps us with the jewelry, her father has a condition called retinitis pigmentosa. And that's one thing that's been like very important to us in the process. And it's actually been one of the most rewarding parts of the production, is being able to work with organizations that have, visual impairment or blindness at the forefront. So for example, we've had the opportunity to work with Dallas Lighthouse for the Blind, Industries for the Blind, people like Kemi, and it's a way for us. We were actually shocked. We didn't realize that these existed when we first started the project. That there are these 501c3 organizations. A lot of the time, they're doing sort of big commercial projects for like the government. They're making uniforms and notebooks and pens and highlighters and things like that. And so we were able to have them step in and help us with some of our production process. And that's been a very rewarding part of the experience, and lets us not only look at the research, but actually try to make a contribution today, through the organizations.
Right. It's great that you also connect the different organizations, because I think very often it's the problem that if there's information, it might be too much, and you need an access point, you need a way to actually communicate with them and find these information. So that's great. What I find absolutely amazing and impressive is 100% of the profits are donated to help find cures for blindness. Absolutely incredible. Like, wow. You're not even taking salaries out of that. And what you claim on your website is that you say it's not a question of time, but it's a question of funds to actually conduct these studies. And you said on your website that last year alone, your customers helped you fund over 30,000 hours of clinical studies. So take us on that journey. I'm curious. Let's talk more about the research. Whom do you collaborate with? Who does the research? And what kind of research is being done?
And just to clarify, so Brian and I do take a minimum wage salary out of the company, so we're on the company's health insurance, but everything gets donated back, and obviously 100% of all the profits get donated. And our primary partner in that is the Foundation Fighting Blindness. So they are a 501c3, big public foundation that has been around since the mid 70s, and they really sort of started the field of retinal research. It's around the same time that the National Eye Institute here in the U.S. was formed, and before that there was nothing. And to come up with identifying the first gene that controlled these inherited retinal eye diseases took like 25 years. Wow. And now fast forward, they've identified over 250 genes in the eye. And even just 2 years ago, they had the first cure for an inherited retinal disease called Luxturna by this company called Spark Therapeutics. So there's a gene called the RPE65 gene, and it's a single injection. And the gene causes blindness in several hundred kids a year here in the US. And this not only prevents the condition from getting worse, it actually reverses it in some cases. So there's one of the first kids that was treated with this was named Yannick Douay, and he went from reading Braille to reading print. And now, like anybody who's paying attention in medicine right now, we're kind of going through this medical revolution. Mm-hmm. So where Two Blind Brothers comes in is we step in at the very beginning at those early stage researchers. We do this through the Foundation Fighting Blindness so that, when the science is most risky or you're trying to create that new concept that can eventually become a cure, that researcher can get funded, prove out their concept, raise the money they need from the biotech industry, and then get that therapy commercialized and into the into the eyes of the patients who need it. So that's kind of how we play our role.
That's amazing. It's such an important work that you guys are doing. Now, I found that you have a blind challenge on your website. In addition to selling the regular products on your online, this blind challenge means that you have 3 different price points. And I'm curious, what's inside? How does it work? How's the feedback? Because just to explain to the listeners, you have the 3 different price points and they pick one of the price points, but don't know what they will get.
It sounds crazy when you say it aloud sometimes, but we do this incredible thing called the Shop Blind Challenge. And the premise behind it is when you're blind or you're visually impaired, the number one lesson that you learn and one of the best lessons Brad and I ever learned is about trust. You have to trust in other people. You have to trust that a cabbie is going to drop you off on the right street corner, that the sales associate at the store is actually picking out things in your best interest, that a restaurant, that a waiter is going to give you a good recommendation, not just the expensive catch of the day. I've fallen for that quite often, but it is delicious. But the whole goal is to allow people that experience, that opportunity to put their trust in us. So we put up those 3 price points or 4 price points, and we make 2 guarantees to people. One, that as always, 100% of the profits from their purchase are going back to curing blindness. And 2, that they are going to get more value and absolutely love what's inside of what's inside of that box. And if they don't, we'll return it because we know how challenging trust can be. But this campaign has been just such a incredibly fun, incredibly unique experience, and the amount of of positive feedback we receive, and the videos and of people opening their boxes, and the messages we get about how much fun they had giving it to a friend. And it really has been one of the more transformational moments for our whole business. And it's been probably one of the more entertaining things we've gotten to do.
I love this. And I think what makes it so special is that it is also part of your personal experience, because you know what it was like shopping when you're blind and you can't actually see it, right? So as you say, you need to trust what it is. You need to trust what other people tell you. And then they get the surprise themselves. They can, once they open it, they can see it, but still it's sort of, as much as it can be, being very authentic and transferring your own personal experience.
Yeah. And, we get the question all the time, what do you see? I wish I could see like you see. And it's a really almost impossible thing to do, to express that, but we can express a facet of it, of the, hey, here's the experience of needing to trust in a fun, unique way. And where on the other side, you get some amazing products, but it's still a facet.
Right. So may I ask this person a question? Your disease causes blindness over time. How much are you able to see, if you're able to see anything at all at this point?
So our vision acuity, I don't know if you've ever read the eye chart or heard about 20/20 vision. Our vision is 2400, which means that we can read 20-point font or 400-point font from 20 feet away. When you have 20/20 vision, that means you can read 20-point font from 20 feet away. So, so our biggest complaints are recognizing faces. That's tough to do. Reading print and driving. So with our condition, one of the fortunate things is that we do maintain peripheral vision. So usually mobility, getting around a room, walking down the street, is fine. But the other thing too, it is a degenerative disease. Usually what happens is it plateaus. And so I would say that our vision has been essentially the same from a functional standpoint for a long while now. Anything can happen, but right now it's around 2400, which it's been for probably the last decade.
Right. So for the last decade, sort of, it has remained stable, so to say.
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask, is that also in your genes? You said in the beginning that it was quite a surprise also for your parents. So I assume both of you have it, but your parents don't?
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating that neither of our parents, or as far back as we can tell, have Stargardt's disease, but it is a genetically inherited disease.
Right. Crazy that both of you have it then. Why there's no one else in the family?
Brad and I are the lucky ones, we say.
I love that you see it so positively, actually.
Hopefully, if you can't stay positive about it, what else can you do? Life is hard enough. Why not smile a few times a day? Exactly.
And give back to others exactly what you do. Now, I want to come back to the trust point that you mentioned. You have the tagline, "Trust us, we're blind. It's the softest shirt you'll ever feel." Now, you use the natural textures and the tested materials, as you already said. And you also mentioned the sense of touch, for example, already when you go and buy the softest t-shirt. Now, how do you experience your other senses?
So I would say that, people ask us all the time, okay, so if you lose eyesight, do you get superpowers and super hearing? And, are you picking that up with one of your other senses? And to be honest, I wouldn't describe it as sort of something that's so different from the average person. But I think if you tend to lose one of your senses, you simply pay attention and rely on your other senses in just a more vigilant way. So, I'm probably just listening harder. When I'm sitting on a train and trying to hear my stop. And over time, over a lifetime, you probably get a little better at it. So I would say your senses are heightened a little bit when one starts to deteriorate. So because you're working harder on it to pick up that information that you would have otherwise lost.
Is it also something that you shaped over the time, that you, for example, became even more aware and learned how to, let's say, focus more on the hearing?
I don't know if it's necessarily. I think yes, actually. Over time, you realize, especially in school, right, when you start not being able to see the chalkboard, you have to compensate in other ways. So you really try to pay attention and focus on listening to everything that the teacher says. Or, when you are shopping for clothing, if it's a huge pain in the behind, you do take the time to realize, I probably should touch stuff first to figure out if I like it before I even try and do the investigation. So that vigilance and that diligence and that attention you pay towards things does get developed over time through a lot of trial and error.
I love the positivity that you mentioned beforehand, and I would like to use this one to actually wrap it up. What is your personal mission? Where do you see yourselves in a couple of years? How do you want to grow? Maybe both personally as well as with a business.
So I guess we'll both take our shot at this, and it's always better to go first with this because you can take all the good stuff. Bryan and I feel so extraordinarily grateful that when we started this, people say, it's so great, everything you've done, it's great for the, that you donate all the profits. The fact is, when we started this, we had no aspirations that this would reach the success that it had. It was meant to be fun and to do something nice for the foundation fighting blindness. And it's taken us on this wonderful, wonderful adventure, So as we look out over the next few years, what gets us the most excited is to be able to get our message in front of that next family, in front of that next mom. Because when our mom was first told that we had this condition and we could go blind, she didn't know how fast, how dramatically. It was devastating in that moment to her. Like, thank God she was able to see past it and teach us those important things around self-esteem and independence and how to be good stewards in our lives. But for us to be able to help accelerate that process for that next family, that next mother, that next kid who's in our shoes, that's extraordinarily rewarding for us. So just hitting the gas as hard as we can on the momentum, on what we're doing is important. And then the other thing, which is a little outside of Two Blind Brothers, is, we don't know how far outside of the visually impaired community this will grow. It has obviously to some extent already, but to be able to kind of serve as an example of being able to take something you're passionate about and get that traction and get a community, no matter how small that community is, as long as it's personal to you, it is another thing that we get excited about as well.
Great.
Yeah, and to follow up on Brad's second point, we would love more than anything to find the next, to inspire the next Two Blind Brothers for autism or for hearing impairment or for whatever, because we so firmly believe that, we can do a lot of great work and we hope we can inspire and build a strong community and donate some money. But where the real magic happens is when we can get a multiplicative effect that other people follow their passion, follow their dreams, grow their brands. And then there's 1,000 Two Blind Brothers for 1,000 different communities. And that's really when the magic starts to happen. And we really couldn't be more excited about trying to propel that forward. And, personally, as long as we can sit here and help inspire folks that are going through a tough time with visual impairment and encourage them to succeed and try harder and not give up and understand that their hardest moments in your life usually generate the best outcomes and make you stronger for them. If we can get that message of empowerment out, we would just be so happy and grateful. And that's really our main goal, is to grow this business so we can continue to spread a positive message.
I love this. I can tell both of you absolutely embody this positivity, this excitement, and, this gratefulness that you mentioned.
Well, thank you.
So I think what we can do, or what we can bring out to the others, is, first of all, this is only the beginning. For everyone listening, take initiative, start helping in other causes as well. And then to find out more, to visit twoblindbrothers.com, or even visit you and follow you on your social media. And then not just to visit, but actually to buy the products. To take, to benefit from the Shop Blind Challenge, actually give it a try. Be one of them, happily opening the packages, having this experience. And not just to benefit from the great products yourself, but also to be, even more important, to actually help fight diseases.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, I'm so glad. Brad and Bryan, thank you so much for being here today. Absolutely amazing. This went even beyond than how I was already impressed by, seeing your online performance. As I said, I love how you take this initiative, how you support it, your excitement, your visions for it, and how you really turn this, what others might see as a challenge and the need, to an actual advantage. And what you guys do is absolutely incredible. The best of luck for your business, the best of luck for both of you. And I'm going to follow, and I'm going to stay as excited and, amazing what you do. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for putting our message out there. We would not be in the position that we are. I know Brad said this is the beginning, but it really means the world to us, because, we wouldn't be where we are today without people like you telling our story, sharing our story, and getting us out there. It really means the world.
Absolutely. Anything we can do, please let us know.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I was so inspired by talking to Bradford and Bryan, and I truly enjoyed it. They told me afterwards about the business that it's been more fun than they probably deserve. They said it's like running your own little lemonade stand in the summer and like suddenly serving hundreds of thousands of customers. So let's make life fun. The vision, as we know, is the sense that most of us rely on 100%. Being inspired by Bradford and Bryan, let's just become more aware of the sense of touch, maybe even the sense of smell, the taste, and the hearing. All links are in the show notes, so check out the Two Blind Brothers and trust in their quality and their promise to get the softest t-shirt in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Subscribe to my 5 Senses Experience podcast, and please leave us a review on Apple or on Google Podcasts so we get ranked higher. And most important, stay mindful and become aware of your 5 senses.